The mountain valley burned in silence, smoke, blood, and the sound of failing radios. The SEAL team was pinned, their extraction gone wrong, their comms dead, and the enemy closing in from every ridge. Captain Miller, battle-hardened and calm under fire, looked up into the gray Afghan sky and whispered, "If there's anyone up there, we could use a miracle." And that miracle came with a scream, a metallic roar that shook the valley and tore through the smoke. It was the sound of an A-10 warthog. But no one had called for air support. None was available, at least, not officially. The SEALs looked up in disbelief as the gunship dove low, its GAU-8 cannon thundering like the voice of God, shredding the enemy line and giving the team precious seconds to regroup. When the radio crackled to life, they heard a calm, steady voice. "This is Eagle 1. You boys look like you could use a lift." Captain Miller froze. That voice, he knew it. It belonged to someone who shouldn't even be there. A week earlier, that same voice had been sweeping the hangar floors. Mike Raines had been a janitor for 3 years at Andrews Air Force Base. Once, he'd been Captain Mike, Eagle 1, Raines, one of the most decorated A-10 pilots in the Air Force. But a tragic accident and the loss of his wife in the same year broke him. He'd walked away from his wings to raise his daughter, Lily, alone. He took the janitor job just to stay close to the planes. Every night after mopping the hangar floors, he'd sit by the edge of the tarmac, looking at the jets sleeping under the moonlight. Sometimes, he'd whisper to them, as if they could hear him. Lily would often stay up waiting for him. "Dad, you'll fly again someday," she'd say, sleepy but smiling. "You were born for the sky." But Mike would just tuck her in and smile back. "Maybe, sweetheart. But right now, the sky belongs to someone else." Until that morning, a distress signal had come in, an elite SEAL unit trapped deep in the valley. The nearest air cover was over 400 miles away. The weather grounded half the fleet. And the rest of the pilots were either deployed or out of commission. Mike had overheard the briefing while cleaning near the ops room. He saw the desperation on the commander's face, the hopelessness of the situation. He thought of those men out there, sons, fathers, brothers, and something inside him snapped back to life. He quietly walked to the hangar, his old flight suit still in a locker no one had opened in years. It was dusty, but it still fit. He grabbed his tags, whispered a prayer, and climbed into the A-10 that was prepped for maintenance testing. He knew it was crazy. Unauthorized. A court-martial waiting to happen. But as he powered up the engines, that old rhythm came back, his hands and heart remembering every switch, every lever, every throttle push. The crew chief ran in shouting, "Raines! What the hell are you doing?" Mike just smiled, visor down. Saving a few good men. Then the engines thundered, and Eagle 1 was airborne once more. Back in the valley, the SEALs watched in awe as the A-10 circled, spitting fire and steel. Every round hit with surgical precision. The enemy scattered, their reinforcements retreating in panic. Mike's heart pounded as he saw tracers cutting the air around him. The warthog took a few hits, but she held steady. He muttered, "Come on, girl. Just one more run." And she answered with that deafening scream, the kind that turned fear into hope. When the dust cleared, the SEALs were alive. Extraction arrived minutes later. But the A-10 didn't return to base. Mike's radio went silent. For hours, they searched. Finally, a rescue chopper found the wreckage on a ridge just outside the valley. The warthog had gone down after taking a direct hit, but the cockpit was empty. A parachute was missing. 2 days later, in a small Afghan village, locals reported a wounded American helping children out of a burning building after an explosion. When the medics arrived, they found him half-conscious, his flight suit scorched, clutching a photo of his daughter. He whispered, "Tell Lily, her dad kept his promise." He flew again. Months passed. Back at Andrews, a memorial ceremony was held. The SEALs were there, all alive because of him. Captain Miller stood at the podium, holding a folded flag. "When we lost hope," he said, voice breaking, "it was a janitor who reminded us what courage really looks like. He didn't need orders, medals, or permission, just a heart that refused to quit." And then, from the back of the hangar, a small voice called out, "That's my dad." Lily stepped forward, clutching her father's wings. The crowd turned, and then froze. Because behind her, limping slightly but alive, walked Mike Raines. The hangar erupted. The SEALs rushed forward, embracing him. Even hardened soldiers wept. Mike smiled, eyes glistening. Guess I still had one flight left in me. Captain Miller saluted him, tears running down his face. You didn't just save us, sir. You saved what we believe in. That day, the base renamed the hangar Eagle 1 Bay. Mike returned to duty, not as a janitor, but as a mentor, teaching young pilots about courage, sacrifice, and the will to rise again. Sometimes, when he stood on the tarmac with Lily by his side, he'd point at the sky where an A-10 roared overhead and whisper, "That sound, kiddo, that's what hope sounds like." And for every viewer who hears this story, remember, heroes don't always wear medals or fly with permission. Sometimes, they mop floors, hold broken hearts, and still find the strength to rise when no one else can.